afternoon, people. I hope you're doing good, or as good as you can be. The purpose of this video is just to share authentic reflections about what's going on. And I just kept thinking about, okay, what's my role to play in all this? And for me, specifically, as one of your school leaders, it's trying to offer you tools for processing this moment, reflecting, and deciding how you're going to participate. So the purpose of this is not to indoctrinate our students, indoctrinate our families, indoctrinate our staff. Nope. You're your own people. I think Socrates put it well, to find yourself, you have to think for yourself. I just hope that this tool helps you talk about what's going on. And for me, it's an excellent moment to use what we've been teaching you. So let's jump into it. First, let me share this with you. All right, so this is the framework that we use at Empower, the Transformative Resistance framework, Transformative Leadership. And to be honest, I've used this framework with 7th graders, 8th graders, 10th graders, 11th graders, 12th graders, grown adults. What's helpful about it is it gives us language to describe our behavior, all right? So there's 4 quadrants: self-defeating, reactionary, conformist, and transformative. So in a second, I'll walk you through how I fill this out for the George Floyd protests that are going on right now. Here's some quick definitions. Self-defeating resistance, it just helps to recreate the oppressive conditions from which the injustice started out in the first place, all right? Conformist resistance, well, that's when you offer really band-aid solutions for really systemic problems. It doesn't end up transforming what is creating the problem in the first place, and you're just going with the flow. And if you're going with the flow in a situation that is unjust, then you become part of the problem. Reactionary resistance, well, it's just that, it's reactionary. Sometimes it has no critique of the conditions that lead to that behavior. And then finally, what we're all pushing for is transformative resistance. You have to actually change the environment which is oppressing you. What does that mean for the George Floyd protests? Well, I'll say this one more time. This is my opinion. To find yourself, you have to think for yourself. And I'll invite you to go fill out a blank template and talk with your family about it. And share with me, talk to me, this conversation. We just can't be in the building right now, so it's gotta be virtual. All right. For me, self-defeating resistance, boom. We're talking about people pepper spraying peaceful protesters. That's the very reason people are hitting the streets in the first place. Reactionary resistance, okay. Protests are powerful, mobilizing tactics and actions and movements. If protests are disconnected from a larger strategic plan and community organizing, protests alone do not transform the environment and the oppressive conditions that led to the problem in the first place. I've been through the cycle before. Something happens, we get mad, we hit the streets. 5 days later, we forget. I call it the United States of amnesia. We move on. And the problem just keeps happening over and over and over again because we lack the strategy and the patience to actually articulate a long-term plan to reach our goals. So we give up. Now, of course, it's more complicated than that. Conformist resistance, let me give you a concrete example of what I'm talking about. In 2015, my 7th graders held a debate. As you know, they were 8th graders, and they were arguing pro and con for police officers to be required to wear body cameras. That was a perfect example, and I remember them having this debate so deeply. And one of the beautiful examples was, this just films what's going on, which is it's a step forward, but it doesn't change what leads to all this unnecessary death. It is a band-aid solution. What you'll see in the transformative resistance category is a concrete example I could find, and it's what would give me hope in this moment. And the reason, between me and you, Let me just describe it. Everybody knows about Rosa Parks. What they tend to not know is this. Miss Rosa Parks' decision to stay in the forward seat was the first move in a planned boycott of the bus company and the city law, a campaign organized long before by the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP. She wasn't just another bus rider. She was the secretary of a city chapter of the NAACP 12 years before she stood or sat her ground in 1955. When that campaign started, it lasted 381 days. And I always pause and let that number sink in. I first heard it from Pastor Vernon Jones. He talked about Agenda 381, which is the need to actually develop a strategy and a tactic that could last 381 days of sustained actions. Once you see that linked to a larger objective, action from the Supreme Court, action from some of these institutions, some of these structures in our society that lead to the death of folks who look like me. You know, some of them don't look like me, and they still die unnecessarily. When I see that, I'll feel hope. I get hope teaching you these tools, these techniques, honestly, for not just resisting what you see as oppression in society, but any oppression you face in your own life, whether it's a bully in school or getting shot down while jogging. So, what is transformative resistance and why do we keep a laser focus on it? Because transformative resistance forces us to change the environment which creates the oppression in the first place. Void of that, we're just on this endless loop, this endless cycle. Do with that what you will. If you go on our website, empowerhighschool.org/documents, you'll see a blank template for the Transformative Resistance Framework. I invite you, use it as a tool to reflect, to create your own opinion about how you analyze the different actions you see in our society. Put them in different categories. What I love about it is, and you know, at Empower, we like to debate. Some of you might make totally different arguments. And I miss that fire. No, really, the fire of teenagers who are learning about the world and trying to figure out their place in it. All right, that's what I'll leave you with. Hope you stay safe. Hope you feel loved.